Hey there, to those who chose to tune into my podcast. Welcome back to Fractured Poet, a podcast for all of you poetically insane individuals who love getting lost in the art of poetry. Podcasting from Ontario, California, I am your host, Katrina Wisniewski, just another person in the world obsessed with words, striving to make sense of it all. So, today's episode is pretty much a random poetry type of episode. I know I had mentioned on the January 22nd episode, I believe it was, that I have a couple more episodes, February something, and I am done with my pre recorded episodes. I had started this podcast about a year ago, 2 years ago, I don't even know. But before I knew how the hell I was going to do these podcasts, I decided instead of freelancing and talking without a script like I am now, so I was more structured, so I knew what I was going to say and all of that junk, I started writing out my scripts, figuring out which poems I was going to recite, and then have a narrative after that and explain my poetry and all that other stuff. So I had wrote I don't know how many episodes, and once I was finished with all the episodes I chose to write, I recorded them and I scheduled them for their dates. I was doing every other week. So whenever I started and however often I was recording, like at least a dozen or half a dozen of episodes every time I sat down and did it. It went up to February of this year. So, of 2022. So, I knew that I had a lot of leeway when it came to how often my podcasts were releasing, being scheduled. I knew I would have an episode every other week. And then I decided to, per other people's suggestions, to not have a script, to have my podcast longer than 10 to 15 minutes. So I was playing with it a little and I would add episodes in between the every other week. So it kind of turned into every week. So I've been kind of flip flopping. So I am trying really hard to make my episodes, instead of every other week, do it every week. And I know it's very bipolar when it comes to how long each episode is, and I'm trying to extend those times. So if you go from 1 hour to 15 minutes to 45 minutes to 10 minutes, that's why. I'm letting the pre recorded episodes that I recorded when I first started this podcast, letting them run out. And then once that happens, I will be striving to do longer episodes so it's not a bipolar 15 minutes here, an hour there, 45 minutes, half hour, whatever. So I know this is a very long intro, but I'm kind of explaining myself. So with these poems that I'm doing this episode, and probably the next couple of episodes at least, that aren't super short, that is, I have been scrambling to try and find poems that I haven't recited on this podcast yet. So I have been going through my Facebook page and going through my albums. I had made a poem album. So the poems that I had posted in that album on Facebook, I was going through them and trying to figure out, hopefully I don't duplicate or triplicate, or however the fuck you pronounce it. I hope I don't, double or triple the same poem that many times. So these poems, like I said, are random, but I'm kind of scrambling to pre-record more episodes. So once the last of the pre-recorded episodes run out, I have more episodes running. So I'm trying to figure out which poems to recite that I haven't recited yet. So hopefully I made good on that. So that's pretty much what this episode is about, and probably following episodes. These poems have been written over the last couple of years. I don't think any of them have been super, super recent, maybe between 2 and 3 years or 5 years or however long. So I'm going to shut up now. That's long enough intro, but just kind of, giving you whatever you want to call it. So the first poem I am going to read is called Words. Words can sometimes be a curse. They can get you into trouble, be misinterpreted, or simply ignored. Why do we use words? What is their purpose? Words are seductive, misleading, and conniving. Embracing the evils ahead, we take no precaution, so careless and naive. Words have no meaning, just a bunch of letters scrambled up in an attempt to make sense of the world. So, this poem was written January 7th of 2017. And I just realized it's kind of interesting how the day that I recorded this episode, it's an hour away from January 7th of 2022. So I don't know, maybe that doesn't mean anything to you, but I just kind of found it interesting and ironic how I'm reading a poem. Yeah, whatever. So anyway, this poem um obviously is about words, like the poem says. We obviously rely on words. You're listening to words right now. I'm talking words right now. We rely a lot on words because it's how we communicate. Whether it's sign language, whether it's listening to music, whether it's hearing someone talk, whether it's reading something, or in terms of, those who are blind and can't read, feeling letters, feeling words, so to speak. We use words to communicate. It's a way of living, no matter how you look at it. And sometimes, a lot of the times, if not most of the time or all the time, words can be misinterpreted, as the poem states. Once I started attending college online, it was a lot of interpersonal communication, a lot of communicating through email, through group forums, through group chats with my classmates or teachers. And I found out many times that words can get misconstrued, tones can be misunderstood. Someone can be saying something, and someone else that reads this email or chat or whatever can misinterpret someone's tone. Someone could have meant this, and this person took it as, well, you were being a smartass and I don't appreciate it. Or I didn't like the way you came off. The way that you said that, it really offended me. And it made me feel like that you were really upset with me. However you want to phrase it, however you want to put it, regardless of the situation. When it comes to virtual, when it comes to online, when it comes to anything that has to do with computer communication that's not verbal, I mean, even when you talk to someone verbally, I know for me, I am very sarcastic, and some people cannot determine if I'm being serious or sarcastic. So it can go either way, but speaking from experience being in an online program a few times, a lot of things can get misinterpreted, just put it that way. A lot of things can be ignored, overlooked, very misleading. And I think a lot of times we take words for granted, whether it's taking advantage or or just simply misunderstanding somebody. I don't know exactly why I came up with this, what the intention or idea was behind this poem, but reading it now and times that I have come across this poem in passing, I've read it and it it has a lot of relevance. It has a lot of stick to life because I think, like I said, I think we as humans, as people, we take words for granted a lot. And we can throw around words like I love you like it's nothing. Like we feel obligated to say I love you when there's really no meaning behind it. You can sit here and reflect like, okay, when I say I love you, how do I mean it? Whether it's intimately, if you're with somebody, you know, you have a boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, or even a husband and wife, or even family, relatives, friends, whatever. You say I love you, but how do you mean it? What's the definition of I love you to you, and you're throwing it out there like it's just, water out of a water bottle. So again, words, they're, again, like the poem says, very seductive, very misleading, and conniving. And they have their evil intentions, very careless, and words can be very naive. The way that, whatever you're saying, whatever your statement is, whatever you're saying, can come off very naive. So it's be careful of the words that you use because you don't know how it comes off to the other person and you don't know how it makes you look in terms of your stance on a situation. So I'm just assuming that's what I meant by this. And again, I'm reevaluating and reading it a few years later, having a little bit more knowledge from, before I wrote it, and maybe it makes a lot more sense and maybe it's a lot more relevant now than it was when I wrote it. But yeah, that's basically what that one is. So I will go ahead and move on to the next one, which is a very short one. And this one is called Wrongfully Trapped. This feeling I have, it's a waste of time. So wrong. I ache with envy. It lingers, pushing me aside. It's so close. Lurking in the shadows, taking cover. I am trapped. Now, this poem was written January 22nd of 2017. Um, this poem, Wrongfully Trapped, obviously it's talking about somebody feeling or being trapped, whether it's in their head or physically or mentally or however any other ways you can be trapped. Um, this almost is a creepy poem, to be honest. It could be it could be interpreted a lot of different ways. It could be a very depressing poem. This feeling that I have, it's a waste of time. I can apply that to my life in many ways, but yeah, I can't really explain this poem. Like I said, it's very dark, and maybe to some it's very self-explanatory. It may even explain how you are feeling currently. I know I have felt this way many times and maybe even now, but I'm not really acknowledging that if I was at the moment. I don't even know. I don't know where my mindset was when I wrote this. I don't know if it had any relevance to my life or the situation at the time when I wrote this. So I will probably just move on to the next one because I don't really know what else to say about this poem. So this next one is called What Music Does to Me. Your voice is intriguing. The sounds you make are breathtaking. Following along, watching your lips move, so impeccable. My eyes move to the drummer, concentrating on the sound as my head starts to nod to the beat. Captivated by the way he moves, so intense, I can't take my eyes away. Taking notice of the raspy sounds coming from the guitar. Such a piercing sound. It's almost arousing. You're addicting. The raspy sound of your voice, the wailing on the guitar, the violent bangs on the drums. I am officially obsessed. This poem was written January 8th of 2017. A lot of January 2017 poems, but you can obviously tell what this poem was about. It was about a concert and watching a band play. Which band, to be exact, I have no idea. Or maybe I wasn't even referring to a specific concert. I could have just been listening to music, and maybe it was a band that I've seen live before, so I know I can, picture an image in my head of a time when I saw that band and remember. But this is basically describing a concert or thinking about one. And like I said in my way earlier episodes, I love to write about music. I love to write about concerts. And I am a really big concert goer. I love going to concerts. I love being surrounded by live music. I love being surrounded by bands that I am obsessed with and not, creepy like, but, bands I enjoy singing more than once. And to really detach from myself and attach to the moment of watching a live band play in front of me is amazing. And I don't know how many times I've said it before, and it may sound repetitive, although I haven't really recited a music poem like this in a little bit, at least that I'm aware of. Maybe the episodes in between, before and after this one, maybe I have, but I I love music. I'm very passionate about music. Again, I used to be a band geek. I played a clarinet in 5th and 6th grade through junior high and up until my freshman year in high school. So it was, other than the drama that it came with and some of the stress that it came with once I got to high school, I really enjoyed playing. And I haven't played in a very long time, and I need to start doing that. I am very musically inclined. I can pick up an instrument, and it's almost like I have practiced when I really haven't. I was it earlier last year. I have never played a guitar. I've attempted just digging around with it, but never actually put in the effort to want to try or want to try and learn. I've always wanted to learn. The thing has always been there to want to learn, but maybe I was scared. Maybe I just didn't have enough confidence in myself. Or maybe I just didn't have the patience, because I know learning a new instrument is very frustrating at times. I remember when I played the clarinet for the first time and started getting into it, like it was a bitch. But I had picked up a guitar, and one of my best friends is a musician as well. And I was messing around, and I came up with the first couple of notes or chords for the Metallica song Nothing Else Matters. I don't remember how many chords it it is, but what, for six, I think. I don't even know. I probably don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about. But I accidentally came across that, and my friend had picked up on it, and we kind of did a little guitar duet together. And not having picked up a guitar in a very long time, if at all, and even gone this far with it, I was very impressed with myself. And my friend had also expressed the same thing. When I was in, I think I was in high school, freshman, I had gotten into the 80s hair metal band Cinderella, and one of my favorite songs was Nobody's Fool. And for whatever reason, I was just messing around, and I started playing the beginning of that song on my clarinet. And I got really excited. I'm like, oh shit, like I am playing this. Like I just taught myself. Like I was messing around with the different notes and trying to match the song. And I did it. There was a song that I played in band called Liberty Overture. And it's, like I said, it's one of my favorite songs. Once I learned how to play it on the clarinet and I heard the entire band play it, it sounded so amazing. So it was a, I don't know if it's like a toy keyboard, or no, I think my grandparents had one of those long keyboards, like an actual piano keyboard. And I was teaching myself, I was just again messing around with the notes, and I had found out on my own, I figured it out how to play that Liberty Overture song on the piano. Almost not the entire song, but the melody itself, the beginning of it. And I I was very shocked and very happy. You know, literally I can pick up an instrument and learn how to do something with never having even picked up the instrument before. So I have a 2-year-old nephew, at least at this point in time. He's 2 years old, and he has a xylophone, and he has a little kid mini keyboard slash piano thing. I play with it more than he does, if that says anything. I have figured out how to play certain Christmas songs, not jingle bells and, things that are simple, like just messing around with the keys and stumbling upon certain things. So, again, music is in my blood. I am very passionate about music. I love music. The only thing I can't do that I like to do is sing, and I'm a very shitty singer. And no, I will not even try it on here. But, and that's another thing I want to learn how to do. I want to learn how to sing. I love to sing, even though I'm very shitty at it. I do love to sing. So that's something else that I want to learn how to do. But music has always been in my blood. So talking about it is one thing, writing about it is another. Like, as you can tell, I don't even know how many minutes I've gone on to a music tangent. But it's the same thing with poetry. If I am listening to a song and I am really, really loving the song, and I feel every sound, I write about it. I soak it in, I embrace it, and I listen to it. A really good guitar solo or just a full on instrumental. A couple of bands, Darkest Hour is one of them. They're a metal band. They have songs that are complete instrumental, no vocals. I can listen to that song and just melt from the inside out and write, I don't know how many poems about it. Just by the way that the guitar solos and the guitar riffs and the drums, and I mean even the vocals, it makes me feel, and I write about it. So This poem, What Music Does to Me, I basically just explained all of that in however long I've been talking about it. This is what music does to me. It makes me talk like a lot on that topic. I can talk about music in any direction for hours. Someone would have to tell me to shut up or change the direction of the conversation because I would talk about music forever. I love talking about music. I love music in general. So, this poem, it could have been me remembering a concert that I went to, or it could have been listening to a song and imagining the band playing. I don't know. But regardless, that's what it's about. And I will not talk your ear off about that anymore. I do have other poems to read. So I will close my mouth and move on. This one is called Erasing You. I remember when sitting under the sun felt good, soaking up the warm, bright rays of sunshine, having not a care in the world, paying attention to absolutely nothing at all, just enjoying each other's company. I remember when saying I love you meant more than life itself. Now my days consist of darkness, trying to forget the day when you changed. This poem was written not in January, but September 5th of 2018. I cannot even tell you what was going through my mind when I wrote this poem. It wasn't talking about anyone in particular. I don't even think it was anything that I was experiencing at the time. It was just a random poem, probably a phrase that I came up with on the whim, and I probably wrote it down. And it looks like, because I'm looking at a picture, it's a screenshot. I had probably came up with a phrase on the random and took my phone out and started texting out what I wanted to say or what I was thinking, and it turned into this. So, this obviously is about someone that felt wanted and loved and felt comfortable with somebody until they didn't. You know, sitting under the sun, soaking up the warm, bright rays of sunshine, not having a care in the world, paying attention to absolutely nothing, just enjoying that other person's company. It's, now that you lost that love, whatever reason why you fell out of love with this person, sitting under the sun, not caring, paying attention to nothing at all, led into I no longer enjoy your company because I no longer love you. The sun no longer feels warm. I suddenly care about everything and I pay attention to everything else. So, like the last couple lines of the poem says, now my days consist of darkness, trying to forget the day when you changed. So it's basically a breakup poem, post breakup poem. So you're feeling all those emotions and you're feeling depressed and you're feeling very down and alone, and everything that you felt that made you happy now makes you go to a dark place that you don't want to be in, but you can't help but be in. So yeah, I don't really know what else to say about that one. I think, in the title, Erasing You, going through the motions, going through the grieving process, and then you go into, moving on and erasing, these emotions that I have for you, type of thing. So, the next poem is extremely short, and this one is called No More Blue Skies. Her mind is distracted by the devilish gray skies. The wind has hypnotized her attention, forcing her to close her eyes and go through the motions. Okay, so this one I probably could have revised before reciting it because I feel like there's so much more that could follow after that last phrase. But this one was written May 15th of 2017, and this picture is also a screenshot off of a poem that I posted on Facebook. And the poem is actually written on a picture I took. And I used one of those photo edit apps and added text and typed in the poem on the photo that I took. And the photo is, I have this thing, and that's another passion of mine, is taking pictures. I decided one day to take a picture of the sky, and that day was very, very cloudy. It was basically the title of the poem, No More Blue Skies. The sky was covered with clouds, gray clouds, and I decided to take a picture. And looking at the picture and looking at the sky, just, gazing at the sky and admiring it, I came up with this poem, even though I should have written more. But this is what came out of me after taking that picture, looking up at the sky, and reflecting on the picture that I took. So I'll kind of sort of read it again. Her mind is distracted by the devilish gray skies. The wind has hypnotized her attention, forcing her to close her eyes and go through the motions. So this is probably what I was thinking at the time why I took the photo. My mind was distracted by the sky, the gray sky. I love, as much as I don't like driving in it, as much as I don't like sometimes the way that rainy days make me feel, I do like these kinds of days. I like cloudy days. I like rainy days because you can look up at the sky and just be either terrified or completely taken back by the way that clouds form, the way that they look, and how they make the sky look. And it looked very, just by looking at the picture, it matches that first line. Her mind is distracted by the devilish gray skies. I was distracted in a good way. And apparently it must have been windy. And I love windy days. And living here in Ontario, California, at least where I'm at, when it gets windy, it gets windy. And it's very eerie sometimes and kind of scary too. Like a lot of shit happens, trees fall, a lot of shit happens. So when it comes to wind, living out here in Ontario, California, I like to spend my windy days inside. Because being out there sometimes it's very nerve-wracking when you're driving around. You don't know if a tree can fall on you. Branches can, you can run over branches and get stuck. It's just, yeah. So that's basically what this poem was about. I was describing my emotions, my thoughts on cloudy days. So there you go. So the next one is called Claustrophobic. Feeling trapped. I can't find a way out. Too many dead ends. Running out of breath. Maybe it's time to give up. Boxed in. Nowhere to go. These thoughts won't go away. This is what it's like, being trapped inside my head. I wrote this poem another January poem, January 25th of 2017. And I am very guilty of feeling this poem all the time. I am always getting lost and trapped inside my head, my thoughts, overthinking, overanalyzing things, thinking in general. I get really caught up in my thoughts, whether it's hypothetical or things currently going on or things that I fear are going to happen. It gets very claustrophobic in my head. And a lot of the time, it's very hard to escape that feeling. So, feeling trapped and can't find my way out, it's like I just said, it's really hard to get out of my head. And it's really hard to make the thoughts go away, depending on how intense whatever I'm thinking is about and how intense they are. It's hard to make them go away because I get so fixated on them. And once I start thinking about it, I just go. And this new trend I have with thinking about things, it spirals me into panic attacks. And it's really, 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 really hard to get out of those panic attacks. But yeah, I feel like I'm getting claustrophobic just talking about this poem called Claustrophobic. So I will shut up, move on to the next one, a more sort of uplifting ish, maybe one. This one is called A Poem of Movie Titles. Dear John, it's been a while. However, I'm not sure if you would remember me. Or maybe I'm totally clueless and you may not know me at all. On Valentine's Day, you told me how you wrote letters to Juliet, exchanging thoughts about her cousin's 27 dresses, sparing her the ugly truth. She always had this way of believing that she would live an ever after life, pitching a crazy, stupid love relationship that didn't exist. The reason I am writing this letter and reminiscing is because Juliet passed away. The last time I saw her, she mentioned the walk you two had. She told me it was a walk to remember. She never saw it then, but I did. She loved you. The way she talked about you, you were it for her. Anyways, I was looking through her things, and I found a letter addressed to you. Forgive me for saying, but I read that letter, although it wasn't a letter, just 4 words, written in the center of the page. P.S. I love you. I believe this poem was written February 28th of 2017. And if you couldn't already tell by the title of the poem, this is a poem written of movie titles. Maybe you can determine which movies were included. Maybe I'll go through and I'll point them out. Let's see. Clueless is one. I think On Valentine's Day or Valentine's Day was another one. Letters to Juliet. 27 Dresses. Ever After. Crazy Stupid Love. A Walk to Remember. And I think P.S. I Love You. So 8 movie titles were included in this poem. And I don't know what provoked me to write this. I think I was looking at between my movie collection and my sister's movie collection because they were close together. At the time, we were sharing a room, so our movie collections were kind of combined together. So I think I was trying to figure out what to watch. And I saw a lot of movie titles on my sister's side that were very rom-com, I guess is the term that could be used. A lot of romantic like movies, and I think the only movie that I actually own and like is Ever After. All of the other ones I've never even seen those movies, or Clueless is another one. So I have Clueless and Ever After. Um so the other ones I'm not really sure what they're about, but yeah, I don't even know what drew me to write a poem of movie titles or include movie titles in them. But this obviously has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with anybody that I know personally or anything that I experienced. This is basically just a figment of my imagination, a story made up. So I kind of took the letters to Juliet. I think I had seen bits and pieces of it. My sister was watching it and I was listening and maybe, peering up at the TV every now and then. And I think this might have a little bit to do with Letters to Juliet. Not in a lot of ways, but the overall concept maybe. I don't even know. But yeah, so that's basically what this poem is about and where it came from, at least. And I don't know, again, what gave me the idea to write a poem consisting of movie titles. So that, or I could have just been really, really fucking bored. But there you go. So I will move on to the next one. Again, another really, really short poem. And this one is called Haunting Grays. These cloudy skies haunt my thoughts. Beyond the gray are colors of many. Watching the clouds glide across the cluttered heavens, I am finally at peace. This poem was written May 17th of 2018 or 2017, I'm not sure. But like the poem No More Blue Skies, this is a very similar poem. And how this poem was triggered, it's also pretty much the same as that No More Blue Skies poem. I had taken a picture of the sky, and again, it was another cloudy day. For all I know, it could have been the same day. And I went on to those photo editing apps and wrote in text, and the text was a poem. So the picture that this poem is written on is again cloudy skies. And it actually, when I had written this, there's a line in the poem: Beyond the gray are colors of many. So there's a story behind this. When I was going to Art Institute, I had taken, I don't remember what the title of the class was, but I had taken a class and the professor was talking about clouds. Like when it's cloudy outside, when you look up at the clouds, everyone refers to clouds as being gray. And if you really pay attention, you don't see gray. You see different colors, as in like blues and purples. Maybe gray, but mostly like blues and purples and like colors of those type of things. And so the picture that I'm looking at that the poem is written on, the clouds actually look blue, at least to me. And when I had first mentioned this to my mom and to certain people that I'm close to, they thought I was fucking weird. And I'm like, no, really, like if you look at the sky when it's cloudy, you don't really really pay attention and really look at it. Unless I'm just a fucking weirdo and someone just put an idea in my head. I can actually, look at the clouds and really pay attention to the colors. It's not gray. Like I see blues. I see a lot of, either mostly dark blues, some light, maybe even purple. Obviously, you can see gray, and clouds can be white too. But ever since I took that class, I don't look at cloudy skies the same anymore. So when I had put beyond the gray are colors of many, that's what I was referring to. So again, cloudy skies and the type of mood that cloudy skies put me in, it's I don't know, it's soothing. It's self-soothing actually. And it feels nice, I can sit outside, or if I'm able to, whatever room I'm sitting in, if I can, either sitting in the living room or sitting in a room where I can see outside, like at the sky, and just, open the window, maybe even open the door if there's a sliding glass door or something, and just getting lost in the sky, just paying attention, getting lost, not paying attention to anything or anyone around me. That's basically what this poem is symbolizing. So, and yet I titled this poem Haunting Grays. It's quite the opposite of what I just explained. But like I said, sometimes cloudy skies, gray, really dark, almost demonic looking clouds, when we know that there's a storm coming anyway. Clouds can be very intimidating. Clouds can make it seem like, it's very scary outside. Like, I don't even want to be outside. Like, it's really scary. So, for what I just explained and to compare it to the title, it makes no sense. But hey, whatever. Okay, so I will move on to the next one. This one is called The Mirror of Shame. This reflection of me is not what I want it to be. To look in the mirror and hate what I see. What have I become? I never liked being me. Always made me feel as though I was this freak of nature. The hurtful words and taunting voices that followed me around. Such an awful way to live life. I catch myself staring at my reflection, feeling so ashamed and embarrassed to be in my own skin. This is who I've become, a self-conscious, insecure little girl. This poem was written September 6th of 2018, and I will admit that everything about this poem is about me and the way that I feel about myself. I think I've mentioned this before, way earlier episodes, and I don't think I got into detail, and I still won't, because even talking about it, I get embarrassed about it. But I was bullied a lot when I was younger, and sometimes I even still get it being an adult. And to look at myself in the mirror, I don't like what I see. And I'm not talking about, losing weight. I mean, that's a part of it too, but that's not what this poem is about. It's about looks. I can look at myself in the mirror and not be happy with the way that I look, my face in particular. I have dealt with a lot of fuckery when it comes to this topic. I am ashamed and embarrassed to even talk about it to people in detail, or when people have made comments about the thing that I have been bullied about, even though it's not referring to me. I try to hide, I cower away, and I try to avoid the topic at all costs, and, try to move my face around, or, whatever. It's very embarrassing when it's brought up. And I feel like, when people bring it up, people make comments regarding this thing that I was bullied about. I I don't want to exist. I want to disappear. I don't like people pointing out my flaws, whether I can control those flaws or not. When it comes to looks, I can't really control that. Again, weight loss is one thing, and maybe even there could be an alternative to the thing I'm referring to. But being realistic, I don't have money for that. So I'm kind of stuck with what I got. And sometimes I I get in those moods where, I'm feeling cute, whatever, and I happen to look at myself in the mirror, or someone happens to take a picture of me without me knowing it, or, persists on taking a picture, and I happen to get tagged in that picture. Someone shows it to me, and it's like, oh God, like, what the fuck? Like, you're ugly, dude. And it brings back a lot of stuff. And I feel very insecure about it. I don't like the way that I look. I don't think I'm attractive. Some people may beg to differ. I don't think so. And being hung up on something that people have embedded, burned in my head, in my thoughts, in my everyday thinking, it makes me think otherwise. I can't look past what people have bullied me for so long, because that's my train of thought. That's my way of thinking when it comes to me and the way that I look. That's the first thing that people see. It's the first thing that people make fun of. It's the first thing that people do to refer to me as, or if they don't remember my name or how I look, they identify me by that thing. And it's embarrassing. It really is. I've been out in public with other people, and people around me have made comments, and it's like, it makes me just want to hide, and hoping that that person or people that I'm with didn't hear that or didn't see what they did. So that's what this poem is about, sadly. So, yeah, I think I have a lot more of those. I'm just not sure where, or maybe I just deleted them. I don't know. But again, off of that topic, and I will move on to the next poem. And this one is called Expect the Unexpected. Love is nothing more than a fairy tale, she said. Just wasted energies on someone who, in the end, never loved you anyway. Before she met him, love didn't exist. She was content. And then their eyes locked. Emotions ran wild. This wasn't supposed to happen. Confused and unprepared, he was not what she expected. This poem was written September 7th of 2018, and I'm going to say that this is referring to me. Before I met my fiance of 13 years, almost 13 years at this current point, at least recording this episode, I had pretty much given up on wanting to have the interest to date. I had been through quite the ringer with certain people I was dating. In the process of dating, attempting to date, or was with somebody and it just didn't work. And I had decided at one point, I'm not going to sit here and look for a guy. I'm not going to go out and pursue somebody. I'm not going to knowingly and purposely go out and look for somebody and whatever from there. So I just said, you know what, fuck it. I'm just going to, what people say these days, I'm just going to do me and just go about life and do what I need to do. working, going to school, whatever I was doing at that point, where I was working, going out with friends and exploring. I had a friend that loved driving to LA, and after work or on our off days, she would call me, "Hey, you want to go to LA? You want to take a drive?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, let's go." So me and a couple of other, coworkers, we would drive down to LA, and she introduced me to a lot of things I didn't know existed. So I got caught up with that. I was at that time too with one of my best friends, my childhood best friends. We would go to concerts a lot, like local bands. We would go to concerts a lot. So between that and doing what I was doing with my coworker friends, I was just, you know, having fun, doing whatever it is that I wanted to do and not have to worry about a boyfriend, not have to worry about drama, not have to worry about any of that. If a guy came along and I was interested and he was interested, we would try it out and that was that. Guys came and went within that time period. And then came my current significant other, my fiance. Um, Again, I think I had mentioned the story before, but I will try to keep it brief and give you a little, flashback in terms of what this poem was talking about. I had met my fiance on MySpace, of all places. Yeah, MySpace. And he happened to send me a friend request, and I don't like accepting friend requests from random people that don't even try to talk to me first. To which he didn't. So I initiated a conversation, and it went from there. And we ended up going on our first date, and here we are. So when we were dating, everything seemed perfect. It was different from the other people that I've been with, other people that I've dated, way different all around. And I I remember telling him that I felt numb about us going out dating, and numb, not in a bad way, just I didn't know how to take it. The stuff that I went through, not like massive, but the stuff that I went through with boyfriends and guys that I was dating, this was completely different. And I didn't know how to take it. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. I didn't even know how to react. So, in the beginning of this poem, when I had said, "Love is nothing but a fairy tale," I didn't really know what love was until I met my fiance. And it was almost instant before even meeting him, just talking with him. And again, we talked for a long time. And we talked a lot about music for hours, actually. And we can still do that. I'd never experienced anything like this before, and I had almost fallen in love with him before even meeting him. Just, his demeanor, whatever. And then once we met up on our first date, it was like we instantly clicked. And within a couple months, we both knew that we loved each other. So before meeting him, I'm not going to say that I gave up on love or attempting to find a boyfriend, but I I have never experienced what I am experiencing currently. So I thought that love was nothing more than a fairy tale. Love was just a word that people threw around to make themselves feel like, they were, you know, in a good relationship. It was the thing that you were supposed to do when you were dating someone, when you had a boyfriend or a girlfriend. Saying I love you is almost like a given that you have to say it. You're obligated to say it. And like the poem says, before she met him, love didn't exist. And it didn't. In relationship, boy girl type of thing, it didn't. I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't, I mean, I was yearning for it. Like, I wanted to find somebody that, I can spend, a long time with. And then their eyes locked. So, and then she meets him. I met my fiance. And once our eyes locked, that was it. This wasn't supposed to happen, as the poem states. I was confused, I was unprepared, I didn't know how to take it, hence the reason why I said I was, I felt numb. Because my fiance was not what I expected. I did not expect any of the things that have happened over the last 13 years. When it came down to marriage, I wasn't really a believer in marriage. I am very observant and I watch people, married couples in general, even though every person is different, every person handles marriage and relationships differently. It doesn't necessarily reflect on me, but to see how married couples treat each other, how boyfriends and girlfriends sometimes treat each other, I didn't want to get married. I didn't like the fact that, the idea of marriage for a woman is self sacrificing. And I know in this time and age, right now, where it's like everyone's all, playing victim to something. Now, this was way before it was even popular and everyone was whining and complaining and bitching about it. And, I'm not saying that women's rights aren't important, but I had thought this before it was a trend and before people used it as an excuse and leverage on things. I didn't like what marriage symbolized. I did not want to be, a 1950s wife where it's like you pop out 20 kids and your ass is in the kitchen all the time. I come home, I better have a fucking sandwich, I better get a foot massage type of thing. Like I didn't want to sacrifice myself just for, a man. A marriage to me is equal. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. So I once my fiance and I built enough time together, a couple of years, marriage did start to come up. And I did start to voice it about, how I felt. But over time, and as of December 22nd of 2019, I have been engaged. I said yes. I'm going to get married. I'm going to be someone's wife. And someone's going to be my husband. So it's happening. He was not what I expected. And I say that in a very good way. I have never been with someone this long. And even though I know we both get on each other's last nerve and we've had our moments, but I have never once had the urge or need or thought to want to end my relationship. Because he is it for me. He has changed my entire outlook on what love is supposed to be like, what relationships are supposed to be like, at least in my eyes. I'm not saying we're perfect. I'm not even saying our relationship is perfect because it's not. We have our moments. But yeah, again, on a tangent, but that's basically what this poem is. So, yeah, expect the unexpected, guys. And moving on to the next one. And after this one, there is one more left on this episode. And I'm another hour episode. Yay. But this one is called The Joke Is on Me. Getting close to you has been impossible. Yearning for your attention for so long, I know now that I was wasting my time. Looking up to you as if you were a role model. Years later, realizing that you are just a joke. I am ashamed to even know you. Taking what we had for granted, believing our bond would last forever, but you took it all away. I guess it's true what they say. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. This one was written December 7th of 2018. And this can go a lot of different ways, even though I know what this poem was referring to. This can go in a relationship type of way, but a couple episodes ago, one of my hour episodes similar to this one, I had written two poems that I'm going to assume, and I believe I know, reflected on this actual poem. Um, there were a lot of people in my life that I looked up to, that I considered role models. And realizing after certain events occurred that they were no longer the role models that I thought they were. It was all a joke. I took for granted the relationships that we had, thinking that they would always be there for me. They would always be there when I needed help. They would always be in my life. And I was sadly mistaken because they're no longer. And believing, as the poem says, that our bond would last forever, again, taking for granted what we had, the bond that we had, it was broken and it cannot be put back together. It has been completely severed beyond repair. And the joke is on me. When you think you're close to someone, related or not, you think those people, that person is forever, and you take their presence, you take everything that they have brought into your life for granted. And you think they're always going to be there. They're always going to be, that reliable type. They're always going to be there for your support. They're going to support you through everything. And seconds later, you realize that that's not true and it's not relevant anymore. And there's no way that I can get that back. Whatever is done has been done. It cannot be undone. It cannot be taken back. And nothing will be the same, even if it is somewhat fixed. There's always going to be that thing lingering and hovering. And it's just something I'm just going to have to let go. And I let go a long time ago. And that ship has sailed. So I don't really want to say anymore because I think the episode that kind of had similar poems recited, I think I went a little too far. Again, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm sorry because I'm not sorry, but I think I did go a little bit too far, and I did him and ha about whether or not I should redo it. And I think at this point I chose not to. So it's out there. But that's what this poem is about. And here goes the last poem, and it's kind of short. This one is called Pondering Poet. These words in my head are endless. It's driving me crazy. I crave for a moment to myself, a moment with no words being uttered, a moment of pure sanity, the curse of a poet, Words, are they friend or foe? This poem was written on May 29th of 2019, and I think this is actually a really good poem to end with considering what this podcast is about, words and poetry. But yeah, this poem, Pondering Poet, these words in my head are endless, and they are. I have sprouted out, spit out, regurgitated so many poems. It's insane. And sometimes, I mean it's metaphorically, but when I had written, I crave for a moment to myself, a moment with no words being uttered. I love writing poetry. I never not want to write poetry. I love the process. No matter how many times I say and write that it's a bitch, it's a pain in my ass. It is, but at the end, I enjoy writing poetry. But to say I crave for a moment to myself, I say that in a way that shouldn't be taken seriously. It's just I find it fascinating that I can be sitting in a car. I could be obviously not driving, but I could be in the passenger seat. I can be in the middle of doing something and I can think up a phrase to a poem or even come up with a poem just like that. And it's like, it's not a moment that passes by where I don't think of a poem. And it's crazy. I was working at a grocery store back in the early 2000s. It would be really slow. I was a checker at a grocery store and I had no one in my line. It was very slow, or it was towards the end of my shift, towards closing time, like around midnight. And there was nothing to do. I couldn't leave my check stand unless I was cleaning around it and I had to stay there. So I started thinking about things like phrases would come up and I'm like, oh, I have to write that down before I forget. I would take out receipt paper from the receipt machine and take out a pen that I had on me and I would start writing poems. I don't know how many poems I wrote in a day just by doing that. So it's like I crave a moment to myself. It's stuff like that. Like I love doing stuff like that, but I don't know how to explain it. Hopefully you understand what I'm saying. But it's the curse of a poet, in other words. So at the end, I kind of liked when I came up with, words. Are they friend or foe? Are words a good thing or are words a bad thing when it comes to a poet? Could it be a good thing? Could it be a bad thing? Even talking words get away from me in terms of, I can just say things and sometimes I don't even think about what I say. I just say it. And then when it's too late and I've already said something, I can't take it back and it's already been heard and said. So, yeah, stuff like that. Um, I won't even go on because I think I've explained that enough. But that will conclude this episode. I've run it to almost an hour and 15 minutes. Probably by the time I done um, the outro, it will be over 15. But to those of you who are always tuning in, thank you so much. And to those that are just joining in this podcast, I hope you liked what you heard and I didn't talk your ear off too much considering we've spent an hour together. You can catch this and future episodes at anchor.fm/fractured poet. This episode of Fractured Poet was written and produced by me, Katrina Wisniewski. Music by Alternative Rock Volume 1 and Rock Electronica Volume 4 from freeplaymusic.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at my personal page at Fractured Goddess or my poetry page at Fractured Poet. And as always, thanks for listening, and until next time.